have to get to a place where I can trust you again, that you're going to be there and have everything ready. All right, you let me know.
Stream 3. Okay. Load.
I know what you were thinking. Last time when we came on a Monday night for Brad Stine Has Issues, it wasn't what we had expected. Instead of seeing him with his very cool backdrop and being on YouTube with his very cool new mic that we participated in helping him acquire, and his having his own laptop, his own lights, his own nice, beautiful new camera. Instead, we saw him old school, as though something had retrograde, something had become less than what we had expected from this incredible podcast, that somehow he had gone backwards in time and he was back to his little laptop, and we worried for him. We thought perhaps he'd lost his mind. Perhaps we'd gone through time warp. Perhaps there are multiverses and we ended up in another one. Perhaps this is the beginning of the end for the human race. And then you came back on for your typical 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, Facebook, YouTube. And there was my smiling face with a brand new, beautiful mic, camera. And you realize that no matter what is going wrong with the Corona crazy, no matter what is going wrong with liberties and freedoms being ripped apart piece by piece, and even places like Canada and Australia don't have nearly as sophisticated a Bill of Rights as ours. People have begun to lose hope, and yet they try to gather their steam and say, just maybe we're not through yet. And when you ask God to show you it was true, that there was still hope, I showed up. And you realize that Monday night, January 31st, Brad Stine Has Issues is back. Well, welcome. It is me, God's comic Brad Stine. It is Brad Stine Has Issues, January 31st, brought to you by Christian Podcast Central. People that still believe that people like me deserve a place to be heard, no matter who tries to get rid of me. And don't forget Glockstore.com. If you want to get your Glock retooled and have it retrofitted into a whole new way to shoot things that you need to be shot because they're about to attack you, Glockstore.com. I'm here. It is God's comic Brad Stine, and I'm excited. You know what really excites me, though, folks, is the fact that my son, my firstborn son, my only born son, he was born, not born, though he can be, but he's here too, and he's doing something that he didn't do last week, and that is manning the boards. Because last week, everything had gone haywire because of him, and so he got to get out and not have to do his job that I called him to do. But
Okay.
What?
Last week, the device that we used to have a camera, exploded, or something to that effect.
And so that was the fault of me, the host that simply speaks.
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that.
Mm-hmm. So even though you're the sidekick, you're the producer, you're learning things on the fly, you're supposed to make sure everything runs like a top. It didn't, and you went and took a nap.
Well, I like to think of it as a short rest, but
I see. My son redefines nap as simply a short rest.
Well, listen, when you redefine the term, you get to say what it means.
Yeah, and especially when it means exactly what it meant in the first place.
Exactly, but it doesn't sound like it's the same thing, and that's usually enough.
I would work on your creativity, son. You really need to move to the next phase. Listen, for those who don't know, and you're here for the first time, this is God's comic Brad Stine, and this is Brad Stine Has Issues. It is where comedy, conservatism, and Christianity collides in a cacophony of clarity. We're going to talk about things today that need to be talked about. We need to talk about the truckers in Canada. We need to talk about Joe Rogan going coward on us, and we need to talk about some other things that I needed to get through to you. But we always start by saying hi to our folks. And Wyatt, I haven't looked yet. I was kind of nervous, but I'm wondering who the first greeter was today. You're not going to believe this, Wyatt. From what I can see, it's Marcia Pointer-Reed.
Yeah, I saw that too.
What the heck? What happened to Nick Crass?
Something happened.
A boulder?
Nick,
an anvil?
Nick,
a piano?
you okay?
All three of those things fall out of the sky in cartoons. Could that be Nick's... Could it be Nick's fate?
Yes, I'm the one who needs creative advice.
Hey, it's Adam King. He's here. He said it's my brother from another mother, but the same farther. He said the same farther. Is that like Swedish for father? Farther.
I think it's Spanish for I misspelled this and spell checked it and fix
You're not
it.
gonna believe this. Karen Boyd's here, and she says, "Hi, Brett. Hi, White. Hi, all." Karen is so sweet. If you don't know Karen Boyd, she's one of my original fans, who was one of the original people that came to this original podcast and showed up and continues to show up because she is quite the loyal fan. Don't you think, Wyatt? I mean, who would you say is my top 3 loyalist fans?
So you've got Nick Crass.
Nick Crass.
Karen.
Mispronounce it properly.
And
he's looking. Well, it used to be Benjamin Gregory, but Benjamin wasn't able to come on. He comes on later to help me on the next day because he had a job that he had to take.
That's fine. It's fine.
And who else is out here? Jason Copenhaver's out there. Let's see. Karen Van Salette Love. Hi, Karen. It is. If you know how to read numbers and symbols, this is the beginning of the end. Johnny Robity, you might be right. Hey, Delight Arkansas is here. Rhonda Stone Baxter. Dusty Wilhelm, he shows up all the time. Kit Kat Sparrow's here. Yoo-hoo! I haven't seen Kit Kat for some long time. Hey, baby. Hey, Brad. Good back live with you. Jim Bronow. Good to have you. Hey, and Kit Kat said, "Hey, Wyatt," and screamy letters. Bill Fonte, Pennsylvania's here. Rebecca David Dwyer. I'm watching again from Beaverton, Oregon. Barbara Alsop, thank you, Beaverton. Marty Roberts, need to add some lighting on the right side. See, this is how producers work. Now, Marty is producer of a very amazing movie coming up soon called Running the Bases. I was in that film, Wyatt. I don't want to say so. I shouldn't say this, but Marty did say that he's never seen acting quite this incredible, and he's concerned that all the other actors are going to pale in my comparison. I didn't want to bring it up. I'm just bringing it up to give a backstory to Marty so people can follow. But anyways, Marty said that the lighting on my right side needs to be fixed. So this is how they think. Instead of watching the beauty of my insight and the humor of my insight, he decides the lighting isn't right. Now, where is the writing on my right side? Is he talking about camera right?
No, he's talking about camera right.
Okay. Greetings from Belgium, Glenn Gabriel. Belgium? Hi, Belgium guy.
And look, I would have been more than happy to fix the lighting issue. I noticed it, but if I did...
Nick Kress showed up, but guess what? He has an excuse. Brad, I'm in Las Vegas, forgot about the 2-hour time change. Nick, I would have expected more from you, wouldn't you?
So, yeah, I would have fixed the lighting issue, but if I did, then we wouldn't get to hear you complain about it.
Yes! Yeah. Well done, son. Forrest Bainey's here. He made it. He showed as well. Great job, Wyatt. Damien Shelton's here. Tony Cooch is some more light, please. Everybody's complaining about the light. What the heck, son?
Okay, look, on our streaming software, it looks fine. It's only when
May God bless you all. He does. Hi from Boston, Massachusetts. Woo! Corey from Redlands, California. Clifford, Corey Gilanli. Anyone from Canada watching? No, they've all been locked up. Hi, Brad, Barbara Duvall, Steve Spagla is here. Hi from Missouri, Team Rosa. Let's see, Ontario, Canada. I'm so sorry. We're praying for you, Canada. All right. Kenny's here. Kenny Kretsch, Terry Schlenkner from South Dakota. Lori Weens from Lewisburg. Glen Falls, New York's here. Nebraska's here. That's Justin Voldenau. Belfair, Washington's here. God bless you. Love you from Alabama. That's Jason Harrell. Saskima Lycan from Romania. Wow. Hi, Saskima. Thanks for showing up. Hope you can understand what I'm saying. Let me Peninsula here, late as always. Wow, you actually said my last name right. Yes, I did. Because I border on genius. Why? Did you mention to the folks that I border on genius?
Oh, I don't need to. You won't shut it about it.
Okay. Hello from West Virginia. She's here. Woohoo! Forthright, Texas. Yeehaw! That's Bobby Harper. Raytown, Missouri's here with Ingman Fugel. Hey, Brad, I used to see you at the Promise Keepers a lot. Love your shows. Thanks, Joe Farrell. And Tony Cooch is still sorry about the light. Come to New Jersey, they're saying. From Ontario, Canada. That Grace Stamos Wismer. And who else is out there? Let's see. Lori Weens says, you get gold stars for getting my last name correctly. Now they're bribing me for being able to say their names correctly. All right, let's get down to the show. So here's where we're at right now today in Brad Stine, Land Gods Comics. So let me tell you guys about something that I wasn't really going to talk about, but I'm going to. So a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to you guys about mortality, the fact that I had a high cholesterol and that I had calcium score and I had plaque on my heart, on the lower ventricle, which is the widowmaker, which means literally I could die right here in front of you. And I've seen videos where people had a heart attack right in front of the folks. It's terrible. I mean, it just usually looks like this. So it's not like horrific and blood doesn't shoot out, but it's, it's disarming when somebody just died in front of you. But it's life. We die, right? And I want you to know that if I die, you can weep for me. You can ache for me. Jesus died, cried when Lazarus died. So obviously he knew he was going to raise him from the dead. He still wept because death is an anomaly and it's evil and it takes people that we love away from us. So, mourn. It's horrific. But one of the things that I've learned from this experience, and I've changed my diet, and I've got taken a little bit of a statin drug to help curb it because I have some bad genes when it comes to cholesterol. Why do you think you got bad genes when it comes to cholesterol? You're part of my loins.
Oh yeah, they really bunch up. I want like the back of your leg on summertime,
Okay.
I need to get some new ones.
Yeah, so he's talking about wearing his jeans. He didn't follow along. Maybe
Wow.
his thing.
Wow, such wit.
Yeah, I know.
Much ability to understand the joke.
Okay, see,
Mr. Comedy Man.
So, I mean, sarcasm, Wyatt. There's another direction you can go now again. You can try dry humor, but sarcasm and just put me down. I don't know if that's the way we're going to.
All right, Larry is scolding you on your improper microphone etiquette. I want you to point it up a little bit more.
You know what it is?
Hey, now you look like you know what you're doing.
Because it's too high, Larry. This little mini I got is like way up here, right? Should to be high. Anyways, will you guys get off the production value? It's my son's shot. I gave him a chance to do the production properly. He's failed in every direction. The lights suck. The camera's in the wrong spot. This is too high. This is too low.
To be fair, my job is to be back here mixing stuff. All of this stuff, we supposedly fixed last week.
I understand. Well, apparently what you're mixing is the proper lighting and the proper dynamics of my microphone, and you're mixing it up. So you might want to work on that next time, son. But God bless you. Love
okay, you know what? I'd like to see you try this.
I don't want to try it. I'm a professional.
Yeah, that's why you've got me behind the scenes doing it for you.
And remember, his credentials, he works at Lowe's. That's right. Crescent wrenches, his specialty. Working on my mic and the lighting, he doesn't have a clue. It's all right. I love him. He's going to figure it out as we go. I wanted to talk to you about...
Okay, Larry suggested to set in a phone book to get higher.
Oh, very funny.
Well, I mean, to be fair, that would be a good advice even if the mic wasn't a problem.
I understand. So now he's making short jokes about his dad. I want to ask you guys, if any of you have a son out there that would treat you with such disdain. I would never do such a thing.
And if you say no, then you're lying.
Okay, well, that's probably true. But anyways, I wanted to talk to you quickly, and I wasn't going to actually bring this up, but it made me think that maybe I should, because I never know what I'm going to talk about when I come to this. I have a couple ideas, but I never know exactly the direction, as you've been able to tell, where we're going to go. But I noticed something. So years ago, when a year and a half ago, when I started the podcast, I was in my den, and there was a big bookshelf behind me. A lot of you remember that, and had tons of books. And they were books on sleight of hand, stage illusions, and everything to do with the art of sleight of hand or prestidigitation or magic. Because I, for many of you know, was a professional magician before I became a comedian, before I could make a map, or before I became a podcast guy, before I became the father of Wyatt. So I have collected these books since I was 15, 16 years old. They've been basically with me longer, than many friends I've had, many people, longer than my wife. But I realized that I needed to downsize. As I looked around at my life and things I've collected, things I've held on to, so much, I'm very much a romantic, very much sentimental, and I realized that there's stuff I need to get rid of. And I decided to start selling a big, giant bulk of my magic books. I'm getting rid of them. I'm going to sell them to someone who can sell them to other people, younger people in the magic community who would love this information and they don't have it. And I want to pass it on so new, fresh blood can get a hold of it and use it and try to create effects for people like you to watch and enjoy. Magic is so interesting. Close-up magic is so fun when people are good at it, and it's so mysterious and beautiful. And so I want to pass it on. But I was unable to do that before. I realized how much I clung to my material stuff. And I don't mean that in a greed way. It was part of my past. It was part of my life. It was part of something that meant to me. And I couldn't part with it. And something has changed. As you get older, as you get a real reality check of your mortality, you start going, maybe what I want to do is start downsizing, simplifying my life, getting a lot of stuff out, getting stuff to people that can use it, because it sits on my shelf. I'm glad it's there. I don't read it. It's a sin because it's not being utilized. Somebody could use that and keep this chain going of creativity. I need to move that on. After I do this, and I will, and I'll just keep a certain amount that I do want for my reference, that I want to still reference, and eventually those will go, and if I die first, my family can deal with it. After that, my baseball cards go. I've collected baseball cards since I was 10 years old. I have some that are worth some dough, and those are going to have to go next. I always wanted to hang on to them and pass them on, but baseball card collecting isn't what it used to be. I don't think it's as easy to do, and I just feel like I'd rather get rid of it while I can so my family don't have to deal with it. So that's just an aside. It really isn't part of the show, but I just felt like I wanted to maybe say that so that it might make some of you, give you pause to go, maybe you're right. Maybe it is important in our lives to wonder, what are we really going to hold on to? Why do we sentimentalize over certain things? Don't use them, don't read them, don't keep looking at them. It's like having, I've got cards from my mom that she gave me, birthday cards, when I was 13. What am I going to do with them? My mom's still alive, by the way. She's in my heart. I've got stuff from my dad. He's passed away. There's stuff there. But there comes a point where it's like, your family not going to want this stuff. It's your memories. So some of them should just be moved on. Burn them in some ceremony and say, I love you guys, you're in my heart, but I got to move this stuff away. I've got to disconnect from things that I think are who I am and how I attach to this earth, and bring back the me, the memories, the heart of things that just mean something to me. And let it be in here, because once I go, all those trinkets and those artifacts aren't going to mean anything really to my family for the most part. And so they go with me to my eternal reward, and I want to be the one that lets them go free and says, thank you. I remember this moment in my life, but I'm okay, and it's time for you to be moved on. I don't know if that makes sense, but I felt like I wanted to say that to you guys, because as you know, on Brad Stine Has Issues, this is a time where I get on and try to be as real and as authentic and as vulnerable as I can be. Yes, I'm a professional comedian of 30 years, and many of you come on because you've seen me on stage and you like my comedy and you come to see that. Some of you have listened to me at a conservative group where I talk about conservative values and you came on to watch that. Some of you came on because you are a Christian and you care about the spiritual dimension that I explore, because it's the single most important thing a human can know is God. How do you think about God? Yes or no? But that question changes who you are until you die. That answer to that question changes literally the makeup of who you are based on the answer of God or no God. So these are important things to explore, and it's what I do explore in my comedy. But I want to be as real to you guys and as normal as I can be, because I think a lot of people see actors or comedians or musicians or athletes only in their profession, when they're at their peak, what they're most gifted at. And oftentimes they don't, especially in comedy, get to see the real person. Comedians have a tendency to keep up the humorous facade. That's what they're comfortable with. The greatest example of that to me was Robin Williams. You never got to see Robin because he needed to project this other thing that made him feel good about himself. And I would have much rather heard him be him, because he must have been a very interesting guy. I never met him, but I did meet Joe Rogan once. And I wanted to talk about Joe today, because if you haven't been paying attention, Spotify is where Joe Rogan made his $100 million deal for his podcast. Now, believe it or not, Spotify hasn't come to me yet and offered me even $10 million or even one. Why? They haven't even offered me $1 million.
They haven't offered you $10.
Yeah. Matter of fact, if Spotify had made an offer, dollars weren't involved. Let's just make it that simple. But he got $100 million. And the thing that made his podcast, I think, most amazing is that he did what used to be considered journalism and or great talk show hosts, Dick Cavett, Johnny Carson. They would bring everybody on, and you got to hear everybody's point of view, and they didn't pick a side. You didn't know if Johnny Carson voted Republican or Democrat. You didn't know if Dick Cavett was a conservative or a liberal, because they wanted you, the audience, to enjoy the conversation with this interesting person so you could enjoy yourself. That's what they were there for. And that was beautiful. And I think that's all he's done. He's not some innovator. He's just doing what we used to do. Bring on anybody that sounds interesting and let's talk to them and let them have a chance to discuss things. Well, social media has become so powerful. Social media has become such a means by which we communicate now. It's become, thank God, a way to circumvent the networks, which used to control information completely. Now, yes, social media also now controls information. They are owned and created by leftists. Thus, they literally will not allow you to speak from anything that does not be part of the party line. I use that on purpose because they're very, very Marxist, very communistic in the way they do their work. They control everything. They're capitalists. They take all the money, but they become the state, and that state gets to demand how their citizens may behave and interact. So we know that now. There's nothing we can do about it. Even though I'm doing this live on Facebook, they haven't censored me yet. They've only removed one video I've ever done, and that was me joking about atheists, because an atheist complained that it was hate speech. That's how fragile atheists are. But I've always known that, as you've shown and I've brought up. Every time I see most of the atheists, not all of them, but most of the atheists that you watch engagement are angry and arrogant. There's something about them that is so disturbing that you look at them and say, even if I wasn't believing in God, I'm definitely not going to their camp, because they seem like the most miserable people I've ever met in my life. They're unhappy. They find joy in hurting people that believe in God. They find joy. That's clearly a sacred thing to those people. It means something to them. You can think it's stupid. That's up to you. But to mock those people, try to harm those people and get joy out of that is so pathetic. But they're atheists. They have no moral standard they have to abide by. So consequently, at least you get to see what atheism looks like if you live it out in real time. You are your own God, and you can be as evil to people as you want and claim that you're simply just dealing with science and logic and reason. That gives them permission to be jerks. So, and worse. But anyways, I watched Joe many years ago. It's probably around 1992. I was booked to work for a television show called Evening at the Improv. Now, Evening at the Improv was a really popular show on A&E. I don't even know if why is A&E still around?
I think it
Is
is.
it? White says, I think it is. Now, keep this in mind, folks, and you can learn this from my son. If you ever don't know the answer to a question, just simply say, I think so. Whatever they said, is that still around? I think it is. And here's why that's a great response, and I'm giving my son kudos. Because it doesn't commit either way. And whatever the answer is, you're right. So if A&E is no longer exists, and he says, I think it is, then we find out it's not. And you go, oh, okay, I didn't know that. I thought it was, but I didn't know. And if it does still exist, you can see, I thought so. So it really is non-committal, and it allows you to really not, to show that you certainly don't have a real grasp of what's out there in the network affiliates on cable or satellite anymore. But anyways, I was on A&E's Evening at the Improv, and it was filmed at the Melrose Improv. If you know anything about comedy, it's kind of the big daddy comedy club in Hollywood. That in the Comedy Store and what's the other one? Laugh Factory. So those were the three big places in Hollywood that you would go and try to become part of that experience of comedy. And I did Evening at the Improv. The host, they would always have a celebrity host, was Tootie from Facts of Life, the black girl that was on that show. She was the host of that show. So I went on, I did that show, and I had a great set. I crushed it. And Bud Friedman, who owned the Improv, came up to me afterwards and said, man, I want you on my stage all the time. And suddenly I got a pass. I was in. I made it. I got to go to the Hollywood Improv and be on the set in the list from then on. It was exciting. So when I came back, I don't know, whenever I came back a few weeks later to try to get on stage and do some time, there's a hallway there. There's a kind of a place in the front right off the Melrose Avenue when you walk in that you can eat dinner. There's a bar. There's a upstairs that has a bar and so forth and TVs and whatnot. And then you walk to the small hallway. There's the bathrooms over here. And then you open the doors and you're in the showroom and there's the stage and you're at the Improv. And many of you probably have seen it if you follow comedy. And so in that hallway, you can look through the doors as you're getting ready to go up and do a set, and there was Joe Rogan. Now, this is 92, so he wasn't famous like he is now. I think he may have done that. He was on a TV show series, Just Shoot Me maybe, or broadcast something. I forgot. It was talk radio maybe. I don't know. I forgot now. But he was on a TV show. I might have seen from him. Maybe it was from Fear Factor. I don't remember. But I knew who he was, and he was a stand-up comic. And he was kind of sitting there looking in. I think he was probably doing an industry showcase. If you don't know what that is, I'm giving you some inside baseball. Industry showcase is when you are going to go do a set of comedy, and your agent and manager have invited agents or have invited producers, directors from the networks to come see you so that perhaps you can get a sitcom or a chance to be seen or a chance for an agent to bring you on as an acting agent to try to get you opportunities to audition to roles. So I saw him and I started saying hi to him. I wanted to start meeting all the comics that I was now part of their world. And I said hi to him and he kind of talked, but he was a little abrupt and he kind of seemed antsy. Now, at the time I remember thinking, oh, you think you're a big shot, huh? I'm just talking to you, we're fellow comics. But I think in retrospect, I realized the guy probably was up there to do an industry showcase and he was focused and he was nervous and he had to go do it, and I watched his show, very dirty. I mean, all I remember is him doing I think he still does it, some show about a lion being raped. Anyways, it's very graphic, very Bill Hicks graphic, if you remember Bill Hicks. But that's the only time I ever met Joe. So he goes on to do Fear Factor, and he goes on then to the UFC. I was in martial arts. I got a black belt in karate, and I got interested in the UFC back when it really took off. And he suddenly was the host of the mixed martial arts, and so then he gained fame. Then he started a podcast, and then he blew up, and now he has the biggest podcast in the world. The second biggest, I think, is mine, isn't it, Wyatt?
I think we're at least top 10.
Okay, yeah, top 10 of the bottom
Of the bottom most successful podcast. That's what we're talking about, right?
Never been heard. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So I'm there. But anyways, that was my experience with Rogan. But for those of you who don't know, he was on this Spotify. He's the biggest show there is. They gave him $100 million contract. And he's the number one podcast in the world. So he's very influential, as if you've seen, I'm sure you have. And he has wonderful, amazing, eclectic guests. The top biggest guest you can get, he's has Elon Musk. He's had, Jordan Peterson, every actor, every comedian. He knows all these folks, a lot of them anyways. And everybody wants to be on the show because he gets 20 million viewers. I mean, he's bigger than every television guy out there, by far. So it's a big deal. To be on his show, and he had two guests on that were talking about the vaccine, the problems with it, and about the people who have completely the left and who have completely and utterly bought into every single thing that was told to them about this virus. They believed everything. You tell me how many masks to wear, I'll wear them. You tell me to swallow the mask, I'll swallow it. You tell me a vaccine to get, I'll get it. You tell me to get 15 boosters, I'll do it. You tell me to give it to a 4-year-old, I'll do it. You tell me to give it to a newborn, I'll do it. You tell me to give it to my grandfather on his deathbed, I'll do it. You tell me to get an iron lung, I'll do it. You tell me what you want me to do. Stay 6 feet from people, don't have more than 2 people in an elevator. You tell me to sit down, stand up. You tell me to walk around in a tube. I'll do whatever you want, and I promise you I'll shame everybody else that doesn't. Those people are now more and more being exposed as absolute lunatics. They are absolute cult-like zombies who not only bought into the complete Kool-Aid nonsense, but they spent their time telling us we were crazy. Now, I'm not a doctor, so I don't have all the great insight. I try to observe as much as I can. But the thing I did do from the get-go, and you know this, was try to observe they're stealing my freedom and my liberty, which was more important to me, because if they can do that, there's going to be repercussions. Eventually this virus is going to go away, but now I have shown, if I did it, and I didn't, that I will let the government tell me what I have to do to my body, and I will willingly give them that part of my freedom. Here, this piece of your freedom is yours now. Why do I say that? Because if everybody jumps on and says yes, then the next time they decide you have to do something, you have to do it. You've already told them, I'm willing to do whatever you ask. That's why it mattered. Do I care if you took a vaccine? I do not. I believe in freedom. Do I care if you wear a mask? I do not. I believe in freedom. Do I care that you are not part of a warrior group of people that I need to fight when we go to say we want our freedoms, our religious liberties, our First Amendment rights? When we go to the government and said, you will not tell us what must be taught on our schools, you will not tell us that we can't worship our God in public and not be fired. You will not tell us that we must inject serums into our bodies. I can't count on it. I've seen a lot of people who said, listen, I don't believe in these mandates, thank you God, but I took the elixir anyways. So I'm like, well, then what do you think you're saying? You know, I don't believe in the mandates, but I did it anyways. Didn't you? What good have you done for us? You wanted your cake and eat it too. I'll stand up for freedom, but I'll also succumb to tyranny so that I can keep my job. So you're going to be stuck, unfortunately, with the realization when these continued battles against freedom are going to continue. They wanted to throw Joe Rogan off of Spotify. And then Neil Young comes around and says, if you don't get him off, take my songs off. And they said, sorry, goodbye, Neil Young. And then Joni Mitchell joined him and said, take mine off too. I want you to understand something about this. That's important. Very important. And to think about. Because it's a mindset. See, over the years, as I've done my comedy and as I've stood and done my rants about whatever the First Amendment, the Second Amendment. I have people from all over the world that will watch me. And I had people from Australia mock me because I believe in guns and Second Amendment and being able to carry them wherever you go. I believe that we have the right for that because I want to defend myself against evil, okay? And I was mocked from people from Europe and so forth, places that do not have these freedoms, do not have access to these, and believe they're safer for it. Now, Australia is a police state. They couldn't defend themselves or rise up against their people if they wanted to because they were so grateful that they had given their guns away. And now, exactly what we as Americans said will happen is once you get a tyrannical government in place and you decide, ooh, man, this we didn't see coming, how do we defend ourselves? You can't. You're gone. You give away a little freedom, it will never be given back to you, and you've also told them, I can be manipulated, I can be seduced, I can be compromised. So it's a hard thing to say. I know people, lots of people, that I know, that I love, that have taken the vaccine, that have done all the things. They're good people. They went to their doctors. They tried to get as much information as they could. Good for them. They made the decision they thought was best for them, and maybe based on their circumstances, they thought maybe I'm a candidate that probably should take this risk, and they did it. Yeah, and some of them prayed to God, I want to do the right thing. So I am not in any way disparaging their sincerity or that they're not good people, that they're not patriots or they don't love this nation. They do, not all of them, but many of them do, they do. And I love these people, and they're my friends, and they're my family, and I want them to have that freedom. But I'm telling you, there's going to come a time soon, I don't know how it's going to play out, none of us do, that the battle for our freedom in America is going to come to a head. And some of us, a big majority of us, who have said from the beginning, you cannot make me wear this, you cannot make me wear this mask, you cannot make me shut my business down, you cannot make me inject this into us. That's what I'm battling. There's a guy I saw too that need a heart transplant, and I think maybe a liver transplant, but I think the heart. And he's dying. And he was on the transplant list. And they said, we're taking you off unless you get the vaccine. And he said, then I'm going to die. I would rather not take it. This man is dying, and all he has to do is take that shot. And he'll get that heart. He said, I'm not taking it because, and I told my family, I'd rather die free. I've said this before. This guy's living it. I've said it to you guys. I'd rather die free. Because I'll feel like I died for something that was bigger, more important, more crucial than life. And here's a guy really doing it. He's going to die. But you don't think there's something wrong with a man in that condition, and they say, if you don't take this vaccine, we're going to let you die. That doesn't scare the crap out of you? So when the fight begins, like they're doing. Let's get Joe Rogan off of here because they had two doctors, one of which was part of the vaccine creator, who said, we got, this, that dealt with the lab leak, who dealt with the mass psychosis of people who absolutely have abandoned their freedoms like they mean nothing to them. And they said because they were on there, that's misinformation. Says who? Why has misinformation always come from people that disagree with the left? What if the left's the misinformation ones? What if it's them? And by the way, it is. So they wanted to remove him, and they didn't remove, and they didn't care what Neil Young said. They removed it, and now they've removed Joni Mitchell's songs. Today I saw a TikTok or Instagram, whatever it was. I can't keep up with these newfangled things that all the kids are up to. What do you like better, Instagram or TikTok or Smick Smack?
I personally couldn't care about any single one of them.
I see. So you're still into...
paintwatch.org.
Okay.
Yeah, the one mauve this week. Oh. It's pretty exciting.
Nice. All right, well, see, folks, I mean, if you really want to be on the edge of things, Talk to Wyatt. He'll let you know what's up and where to go. But here's the thing. I watched Joe say there's been a lot of problems. There's been a lot of issues with my podcast. I know what's going on. It concerns me. I didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And he's a nice guy. I'm sure he didn't. He said, I know that Neil Young had this issue. I have no problem with Neil Young. That's his business. I love his music. He even talked about his last gig as a bouncer, was at a concert for Neil Young, and he went home leaving there. Fights were breaking out. He said, I'm out of here. And he just started driving out, rocking in the free world. And he said he's a fan of Joni Mitchell. So he said he was fans of these guys. And he said, maybe what I should do is I just want an interesting conversation, but I think in the future maybe what I'll do is I'll make sure that quickly, if I bring on somebody that's controversial, that I'll quickly have a guest on next that has a counter to that. Maybe that's something I should do. That makes sense. Now, when I watched him say how much he loved Joni and how much he loved Neil, and basically giving him a pass, I think, so that they can get back on because they've lost so much money. When he talked about how quickly he needs to get a counter approach, which he doesn't have to do, that to me was cowardice, Joe. That to me was somebody told you want to keep your job, you better go out there and start getting some contrition out there. You better start bowing the knee and doing some boot licking. That's what I saw. I mean, I admire Joe. He's been a comic. I've been a stand-up comic. Was a professional actor. I've been a professional actor. He's a commentator about UFC. I like the martial arts. I certainly not at the level he's at. He's a short guy like me. He's about 5'6". I think we're about the same height, probably about the same age. So we have things in common. I think his podcast is great. I think he seems like a nice guy, pretty well thought out guy. A lot of comics are pretty smart. They try to find out what's going on in the world and they try to bring it into their comedy or whatever. But I'm saying to you right now, I believe that he compromised, that he was told, you need to fix this real quick, put an end to this fuse, and it just hit me wrong. I expected him to have more balls than that. I really did. Because for everything I've seen from him, the way he speaks and the way he stands for things, and he says, I don't care what you think. I don't care what Oprah says. And CNN is full of crap. And I mean, this guy unloads on everybody. And it's so refreshing to have somebody of that status, because of the views that he gets, to just lay out and expose these people and destroy their iron grip on information. It's so beautiful. Thank you, Joe. Do it. And then he compromised. And it just broke my heart. Not you, man. Not you. I'm telling you. What's wrong with bringing on this guy that says maybe these vaccines are problematic, and maybe we should also, with every one of those Facebook posts you see from that, somebody saying, oh, another friend of mine just died of COVID, and man, he didn't want to take the vax. I'm trying to tell you guys what it's like. Fine, say that. Why don't you show the ones of the people that took the vaccine and died? Where's those? Because there's plenty out there. What about the people that had the strokes after getting the vaccine that they died? Why aren't you lamenting them? Where's the other side of that story? Oh, that's right. Not allowed, forbidden to be put out there. Maybe the reason, Joe, you don't need to get that counter viewpoint is because that's all the leftist media is. Maybe the whole beauty of those 2 episodes were that somebody finally was able to say, there's another way to see this, and by the way, I'm exposing the emperor. He is not only naked, he's had Brazilian wax. I don't know why I went that direction, Wyatt. I just felt like I was trying to get him even more naked. Do you think that would do it?
I think you need to reevaluate your analogies.
Okay. Well, maybe you're right. Anyways, I was sad that he did that. I expected more from a comic, from a martial artist, from a man. He's an A personality. He's a warrior type. He loves to hunt. He eats meat. He's to me the kind of man we need that is in front of cameras and in leading the charge in America. But I did want to come back to you and say Joni Mitchell is a very talented woman and singer-songwriter. Neil Young, obviously talented singer-songwriter. I want you to notice something about them. They're both Canadians. And they're the only two artists so far that said, we'll take us off Spotify. There's a difference in the DNA of an American and a Canadian. Or is there? Because there's been a big convoy of Canadian truckers saying, we're not doing this mandatory vaccine. And they got miles and miles and miles of these men going across the country, and women probably, to say, we're going to go find you, Trudeau, and we're going to let you know who really rules this nation and what it really means to be Canadian. I've gone to Canada a million times. I used to go to the comic clubs. I've told you guys this. I went to their colleges. They're smart people. They're good people. They are really good people. And I enjoyed going there. Really, really did. And to watch them become absolute just a jail for these folks, to be brutalized and turned into just a pathetic slave mentality. To watch these leftists, and they get real left in Quebec and with Trudeau. They're horrific people. It's so sickening when you watch what they believe and how they live their lives. Of course, the hypocrisy, they never wear the mask or do anything. They don't have to. They're the elite. They're God. You worship at our feet. Let me tell you something, guys. You're going to have to, I'm telling you, whether you like it or not, whoever's watching, wherever you are, there's going to come a moment where you're going to have to decide who you are and what you're going to stand for, and it's going to cost you something. And if you took all the stuff, God bless you, I still love you, I still could use you, but you're going to have to live with that. You took the easy way out. And I'm sorry, that's what I think, that's what I believe. Because we need people that said, I didn't just say I don't believe in mandates, I lived it. See, words matter, but because they carry weight, but they only matter if they cause you to behave in such a way that we actually see you become the person you claim you are with your words. That's why be careful what you say. That's why the Bible says, be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. Because once the words come out, you supposedly are revealing who you are. They contain information. But we watch who you are. You watch who I am. My life proves it. I can say anything I want, but the fruit will bear out in the way I live when the rubber meets the road. Let me show you something that Bill Maher said about words. And this is something he said maybe a year ago, I found it. But he was talking about how words are being reinterpreted, redefined. You guys know this has been something I've been talking about for years. So I'm going to do what all the other people do. I'm going to show you a clip from Bill Maher, who has the millions of dollars of HBO behind him. And then I'm going to show you a clip of my little podcast that I said first to define an even deeper idea of what happens when you manipulate words to mean what they weren't supposed to mean in order to control people. So why would you play the Bill Maher clip about what he talked about when it came to the word phobia? Go ahead.
Oh, wait, you mean your bad Stine Has Issues or the...
It's the one that should just say Bill Maher next.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure.
And finally, new rule, instead of putting a Bible in hotel rooms, we should start putting a dictionary in there. Because apparently nobody knows what words mean anymore. George Carlin famously had the 7 words you can't say on TV. Well, here's my 8 words people need to stop redefining. Hate, victim, hero, shame, violence, survivor, phobic, and white supremacy. Comedian Hannah Gadsby characterized Dave Chappelle's controversial Netflix special as hate speech dog whistling. Well, dog whistle refers to when someone puts things in code because they're afraid to come out and say what they really think. That's what you get from Dave Chappelle? He's afraid to say what he really thinks? And it's not hate speech just because you disagree with it, nor is it phobic. Phobic comes from the Greek word for something one fears irrationally, like spiders or germs. but now is used as a suffix for anything you just don't like. I've been called commitment phobic. No, I don't fear commitment, I just don't want it.
When I make the symbol at you, that means it's go time. I don't care what the Facebook thing says. That's like a 10-second delay, okay?
Folks, here's what I got to tell you. So here's what you need to know. I watch the show as it's happening, as why it's running it, so that I can see your guys' comments, so I can say hi to you. There's no way I can do it. But it's a few seconds behind. So when I'm watching it, and sometimes he goes like this, and he made it very clear, when I go like this, it means you're on. I didn't see it, I was watching the show, so that's what happened. So again, behind the scenes, a little glitchy, but remember, and always keep this in mind, whatever glitch happens, it's always why it's fault.
Okay, so real quick, as the creator of the podcast,
Yes.
it is not your job to watch your own podcast in the middle of the podcast.
I just wanted to see I was still there, and that still looked attractive.
You know what? I'm seeing you. I can tell you, one of those two things is still right.
Okay, well, here's the deal. So I wanted you guys to see that. I apologize for the swear words that were on there from George Carlin, but I think you're adults, and it's always in context. That's what I've always taught you guys. Judge things by context, not content. That's what mature people do. But I want you to notice that he, with his 25 writers from Harvard and the millions of dollars of budget he has to do his thing, I, by myself, was very aware of the misuse of the word phobic. And I actually did an entire rant on the original Brad Stine Has Issues before it became this podcast. And so we're going to watch that right now. It's a little bit longer. And then I have a little fun surprise at the end of this so that you guys can hang on. But this is my take on why it's crucial that you are aware of what words are being used in your life against you from all sides, and how to make sure that you don't allow them to be redefined so that you end up losing your freedom. White, can you show the clip of Brad Stine Has Issues on phobias? Thank you.
All right.
Son.
Hey, it's God's comic Brad Stine, and today's Brad Stine Has Issues. Did you know that whenever someone attaches a phobia to a concept, it's virtually always a lie? Care to hear more? Or are you afraid? You know, we've heard a lot about phobias lately, but in case you're afraid to do the research, you don't know what constitutes a phobia. So why don't we go to the dictionary? Now, for those of you not suffering from logophobia, Merriam-Webster defines phobia, and let's face it, Merriam was never afraid to give her opinion, as an exaggerated, usually inexplicable, and a particular object, class of objects, or situation. That being said, I can honestly state, and I will reveal myself, I have personally been diagnosed with two phobias. The first, phobia, which is the fear you're afraid of never fearing fear. And the most devastating, I suffer from phobia, which of course is the fear of not being able to pronounce words correctly. But in recent years, there seems to be a number of phobias that have cropped up out of nowhere that no one knew existed until now. These phobias are so severe and egregious that the people that have diagnosed them, they're not even psychiatrists, and apparently they don't need to be. Which phobias am I referring to? The ones assigned to those who disagree with the left. Examples would be Islamophobia, homophobia, or what is it? Oh, transphobia. The issue, by the way, isn't whether the words exist, but only the important question is, do they reflect reality? Because my battle is always the cultural Marxism of political correctness. I could educate you to the fact that this particular tactic to shut down free speech came from the 1965 book by Theodor Adorno titled Authoritarian Personality. This book essentially proposed that anyone who took pride in parenthood, pride in one's family, Christianity, traditional gender roles, and attitudes towards sex and love of one's own country is a pathological phenomenon. the tactic to pathologize opinions and live patterns which are not in accordance with his own political ends is a strategy of political correctness to oppress anyone they disagree with by calling their ideas mental disorders. That cancerous idea now breeds in the new America where if you're not a slave to political correctness, you're either evil or you have a mental disorder. That's what phobia means, because that's what a phobia literally is. It's a mental disorder. But if that's true, if you're disagreeing with the left immediately means you have contracted a disease, I have my own question to leftists then. Well, why would you be so callous and hateful as to shame me for it? It's a disorder, right? You defined it, not me. So if I have a mental disorder, then that makes me a minority, and political correctness teaches that no minority can ever be criticized because they're oppressed. So if I have a mental disorder, I've joined the minority group of those with a psychosis, which means we demand sympathy. Because come on, guys, if we have a phobia, it's not our fault. I mean, if you suffered from schizophrenia, no one would condemn you for it, would they? That'd be crazy. Oh, I'm good. So, next time someone accuses you of, shuffles cards, Islamophobia, for example, feel free to remind them, hey, I didn't choose to have a mental disorder. I was born this way. It's not my fault. It's in my genes. Quit bullying me. Islamophobia is further defined as racism, which is a lie since Islam's not a race. So let's end that nonsense right now, shall we? If you somehow got past proving you're not a racist, then, well, they'll immediately move to their next diagnosis where you say something as intolerant as, I love America. And they say, how unfortunate, doctor. It seems the patient is suffering from the debilitating disease of xenophobia. Now, as I've already taught you in the past, if you're going to be a free thinker and be able to continue to further the magnificent right given to you in the Constitution, which is your freedom of conscience, you can't let this accusation stand without a rapid and aggressive response. It's time for conservatives and Christians to get bold. Fight back. You don't get your liberty stolen without a fight. First, learn this rule of thumb to be PC-free. If someone accuses you of anything that has the word phobia attached, rest assured, it's a lie. One humorous response might be, so I have suffered from this phobia. Are you a clinical psychiatrist? And by what basis have you reached this diagnosis about me, especially considering we've never had a session together, as I would have known when I received the invoice, or at least got my prescription of Thorazine? Or turn the tables and ask them their thoughts on any cultural issue, thus committing themselves to a belief they hold. Take immigration. When they give you their opinion, simply explain, well, sure, you're going to have to get your affairs in order. I don't know how to break this to you, but it's obvious you suffer from, it's my way or the highway of phobia, which is a deadly mental disorder where someone gives themselves privilege to believe as they choose, but they forbid anyone else to disagree, all the while patting their own back at how woke they are. You need to realize, as I taught you earlier, that this formula didn't come out of nowhere. It came from one of the Frankfurt School's apologists, Theodor Adorno's book, The Authoritarian Personality. In this book, Adorno argued that the American people possess many fascist traits. You heard fascist much lately? And anyone that supported traditional American culture was psychologically imbalanced. Do you see what I'm saying, folks? This was a technique. Keep that in mind next time you hear that someone has been assigned to take a class in sensitivity training, because that's a code for indoctrination by re-engineering the mind of a free thinker, by claiming they have a psychological disorder. You should be offended by that, folks. So your rule is simple. When you're accused of a phobia, you simply respond with, I'm not afraid of homosexuals or immigrants or Muslims or transgendered. So the only symptom I could admit to is I disagree with your point of view. So, if that's the criteria for phobia, and since you clearly disagree with me, well, you too exhibit symptoms of a phobia. I need to get into therapy immediately before it spreads to the rest of your body and you're stricken with an incurable disease known as I am incapable of thinking logically and no longer know what truth is, even when it slaps me upside my head. There's only one known cure. You need to immediately get into not a sensitivity class, but a sensibility class known as American Civics, teaching on the Founding Fathers' original intent on the Constitution, and a 3-year missions trip to North Korea, where you can see what stealing people thinking looks like when real experts get a hold of it. Wow. If you get back alive, which is doubtful, you'll have one thing clearly driven into your skulls. The United States is the greatest nation of all time. The only way not to reach that conclusion is if you fear losing your power and control over us actual free thinkers. That fear is a phobia we can no longer tolerate in America. And the vaccine is me. Remember, folks, PC free is liberty. For all you germaphobes who are afraid to touch your keyboard and subscribe to my YouTube channel, get over yourself! Suck it up. We're afraid of good content-ophobics. Subscribe to Brad Stine Has Issues on YouTube, and do it right now, dang it! I'm getting sick of people not subscribing. See what I did?
I told you. I told you I was a genius. Actually, those were the episodes that started a lot of this podcast. They were shot in California. I told you about that. And it gave me a chance to just focus on one topic, one idea, and work it through. And so what I think I'm going to start doing here soon is doing those types of monologues to my Facebook Lives and my YouTube Lives on Monday nights. I'll open the show with that so we can get some more substance to it. We'll see. But I think people seem to like it. They feel like it has a different way of looking at some of these ideas, and they think it has some value, so I'm going to shoot for it. But ultimately, the thing that I wanted to express to you guys is what we are learning about what has to take place in a free country. You have to be aware of when you are being manipulated by terminology that is being redefined so they can force you into a box you don't belong in. You have to be realized when the government, under taking care of you or for the sake of the well-being of people, begin to steal your freedoms and demand these things. This should be an immediate red flag. I don't want this. But again, people aren't thinking like Americans anymore. Remember, this has been a slow burn, this Marxism, from the first time that Columbia University brought in one of the Frankfurt School leaders to begin to teach this junk. They've been patiently indoctrinating students with this, so those students can grow up and become professors and doctors and lawyers and whatever, and they would take that leftism and they would put it back into the culture until they've built a communist culture. I know it sounds ridiculous. You're trying to tell me that we're going to suddenly become communist? Yeah. Actually, yeah. Uh-huh. But what I'm learning, and I think we all are, and nothing has been more amazing about this corona crap than the expose that the whole world apparently is controlled by some people we don't really understand. As much as we believe in the freedom and the sovereignty of America, our president doesn't. He's letting the borders be overrun. That's treason, by the way. That's treason. He should go to federal prison for that, because people are dying for that. They're dying because of this thing, and it is completely disobeying every law about sovereignty, about immigration, about vetting people so we know who's coming here, so we know that they're going to add to the society and be part of it and productive. We have sex trafficking coming over the borders. We have fentanyl coming out and killing our people. This guy is a lunatic. Well, he's got to be removed, and he probably will be. After the midterms, Republicans take over the House and the Senate. If they have any integrity at all, and I, by the way, don't count on it, but if they do, he needs to be impeached. He needs to be removed from office. He's incompetent and he's a danger to us. But Who knows what's going to happen? But you have to be aware of the circumstances. You have to be aware that the world is in cahoots. Somebody, and I don't understand it, I'm learning more and more about this sort of new world order, this great reset, this redistributing of who gets to control who, but there's a powerful elite and they're rich. And listen, you've seen me do podcasts and rants about rich people. I've never resented rich people because I always saw rich people as something I could strive for. Maybe I can get rich. Maybe I can accomplish something. To me, that was the American dream. That was proof that this really works. And so I saw them as an inspiration to go achieve that. They were just regular people and they did it. I can do it too. That's what I believed. My dad taught me that. You can be whatever you want to be if you're willing to work hard enough. I believed him. And I've gotten whatever I've gotten in my life. Now, I got to a place in my life where God became the single most important thing to my life. I got to this place, this existential crisis, where I realized if there is no meaning to life, then I'm wasting my time. Eat, drink, and be merry. Be a hedonist. Be an atheist. It would be a wonderful thing to be because I can do whatever I want. And I know the atheists will say that's not true. We're very moral. We're very this and that. But again, I guess I'm going to have to do a complete podcast on this. Whatever moral virtues atheists grab onto, they come from the Judeo-Christian ethic. If you are a Westerner, if you don't understand that you are a Christian in the way you see the world and what you consider as just and right and true, you simply don't know history. The history is replete with the proof that Christianity. Notice what I didn't say, by the way. Didn't say Jesus proves that he's God. Doesn't prove that he died and rose from the dead. Doesn't prove that he did miracles. Doesn't prove any of that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what the influence of the teachings of Jesus Christ did to create the West is irrefutable. If you can't grasp actual history and truth, then you're unteachable. That's your issue. It's not mine. I'm teaching that to say maybe it gives Christianity a worthy of a look because it actually attributed to goodness and help in freeing slaves. By far the slave this ending of slavery was spearheaded by Christianity, spearheaded by it. Civil rights movement, spearheaded by Christians and churches mobilizing. That's worth looking at, not just what you believe, but how does it affect the world? Does that belief affect the way the world behaves? And does it make it better or worse? There are good atheists out there, folks. I would never said there wasn't. There's some good people out there. We have one that watches our podcast every week. Good man, smart guy. Atheist. But he's conservative. And I think he's a patriot. I believe he believes in America. I think he's even an originalist in the Constitution. But there's a disconnect from a belief system that is nihilistic at the root. It has no value. We are just molecules that somehow became alive from dirt, inert matter, and became biological creatures living, and then somehow became aware of ourselves to finally reach the point where we could look around and say life has no meaning. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't work psychologically. It doesn't work philosophically. It doesn't work logically. And these are the components that smart atheists try to use because they really are seeking answers, I think. And unfortunately, what they do is they look at demonstrations of science and logic and reason and tools that we use to assess the world and somehow give it a power that is godlike. And it doesn't have that power. Science is descriptive. I've said this to you before. Who, what, when, where, and how. It doesn't venture into why it can't. That's metaphysics. If it tries to, it always looks stupid. Dawkins is the worst philosopher. Oh my gosh. Even atheists are embarrassed by him when he tries to do philosophy. It's not his wheelhouse. He's a buffoon. But I want you guys to understand that there's so much at stake here. I'm working with a man named Rick Green, who you've seen me interview before. He's called America's Constitution Coach. We're going to do a tour of Texas in April, and it's called Biblical Citizenship. Teaching you biblical citizenship so you can know how to come fight from a spiritual and a constitutionally traditional American values to re-establish America's freedoms. for everybody, atheist, Christian, Muslim, Jew, polytheist, whatever you are, deist, pagan. I want you to be free. God does. He wants you to be free. He makes you, the God I believe in gives you the freedom to disbelieve in him, the freedom to mock him, the freedom to not think he exists, the freedom to believe in millions of gods, believe in one God. He gives you the freedom to do all those things, but in the end, his creation has proven he's really here, and you need to start moving where the truth is, and there is a truth, the monotheistic God revealed to the Jews, and then brought to earth in the form of a three-dimensional being known as Jesus the Christ. Folks, I love talking to you guys about these things because this is who I actually am. If you are a fan of mine because of the comedy, great. I hope you enjoy it. I'm trying to work out my next album, so it's going to take some time. Hope you come out and see me live. If you believe in what I'm doing in this podcast and you want to be part of it, we're going to soon be creating a team that you can go on to and give and try to reduce the fees, not the fees, the subscriptions to a very minimal level. So many of you have been so generous with me. I'm so grateful, but it's allowed this to happen, and it's allowed this to go out into the internet, and hopefully it's growing. Every time I look around, it's growing. So I think we're on to something. It's going to get even better, and as I keep telling you, soon, we're going to be having guests on. So this is probably going to be a 2-hour podcast, if not longer. And I just want you guys to love each other. I want you to see truth. I hope there's people from all walks of life here. I hope we can have civil discussions. I hope we can have robust discussions, especially with people that disagree with us. And we try to find some answers to truth that I believe actually exists and were revealed by God. So I'm going to give you a little treat at the end. Over the few years, I tried to realize how can I get my name out into the social media so people could see what I do and maybe be interested in it. So I had an idea of something I called Vicarious Vacations. This is something that I did where I end up in so many interesting places when I perform that I thought maybe I should take my camera and just film me looking at these things because I get to see interesting things, and I would put them together in this little mini vacation that I take for you, and then I would put it out there and see if people gravitated. It never really took off, but I have a handful of them, of places I've seen. And so I made one up, and I've never shown it, I don't think, over the internet, but I wanted to show it to you tonight. It's a little special, little fun getaway called Vicarious Vacations, and this particular one, and maybe I'll find the rest and do more, and if you like them, let me know, and I'll do more. And I should say, by the way, if you want to donate, please feel free. I'll give you the link so you can do so. It's a 501c3, so it's tax deductible. But I'm going to now say, Wyatt, you ready for this? I'm going to give you a little fun. I gave you a lot of meat to chew on, so let's give you something just to relax and cleanse your palate. So it's a Vicarious Vacation with Brad Stine. I'm going to take you to see the gravestone and grave of the actor from my home state, a Hoosier from Indiana. His name? James Dean. You ever seen his grave? You're about to. Wyatt, hit it. Okay, I went to the James Dean Gallery Museum and figured out how to find his gravesite, so I'm going to go see that, and then you will have had your Vicarious Vacation experience. See you in a sec. I'm still here, and this is the grave. Unfortunately, they haven't put any signs or markers up to let me know where James may have spent his resting place. So it looks like I might just have to leave without him. Oh well. I got here, guys. I just couldn't find his grave. Sorry. Okay. I found it. Here he is. The illustrious, the amazing James Dean. Good actor. I will now touch his grave for you. And if you put your hand on the screen, you have touched James Dean's grave. Good actor. With Stella Adler. California, studied I think in Pasadena or Santa Barbara, and then went to New York in about 30 television shows, and then Elia Kazan saw him, put him in East of Eden, and the rest is history. But for all of us, this is history, and the rest we we all have to eventually take. That is the truth. All actors seek the truth. That's the ultimate truth. We all die. That's where God comes in. This is God's Comic. Brad Stine taking you on another one of those illustrious micro vicarious vacations where I have all the fun for you and you can sit and watch. I hope you enjoyed James Dean's Gray from Fairmount, Indiana. Next, who knows what's coming. Remember, I take you someplace, somewhere, or something that you've never done before. See ya. Feel like maybe, just maybe, God actually can use me for something significant. And that's how I feel. And I'm so grateful for you guys and what you've done. So if you believe in this and want it to continue to grow, let me know. I will send you a link and you can help donate if you feel like. I'm also going to bring the shirts back. We can start selling those off. And little by little, we're going to get close to where we're going to be able to do everything that I promised you I would try to do. Please leave any comments as to things you like, things you would wish I would do. If you have some ideas, we're going to grow. I'm pretty soon going to get something back here, Brad Stine Has Issues logo, and so again, you've watched this thing build around me, and you're gonna watch it build into a complete podcast. And let's just see if loving God, loving country, and loving freedom can actually be something that can influence people around the world. Thank you so much for showing up. I will be here next week, and hopefully I'll have something even new and fresh and unique, just like I did today. To keep you inspired and inspired. Please do me a favor. Please share this when you get this, after it keeps going on. Share it with your friends. Let people know it's here. You're the ones that have gotten me this far, and you're the ones that can help it keep going. If this matters to you and if it has any value, then you're the ones that are going to help it, get out there and help people see what we're up to. But you were the beginners. You were the ones that started. Thank you. God bless you. And this is God's Comic. Brad Stine saying PC free is liberty. Always be the last of the truth tellers. And all I'm trying to do is make all you woke go back to sleep. God bless you. See you next time.